next Wednesday. And then on the topic of next Wednesday or next week is our A&F game against Penn State. We traditionally have had the A&F honoree here to talk after Coach Ferentz. Sounds like Micah Hyde isn't going to be here next Tuesday. We'll work on finding another day, whether it's Zoom or in person. We'll update you probably next weekend sometime on that. So with that, we'll go get with Coach.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon to everybody. So talk a little bit about the bye, and then also obviously the game Saturday against Wisconsin. The bye came at a good time. Certainly it's a welcome break, I think, for everybody. It's good to have two of them in the schedule, actually. But had 4 weeks of camp, 5 straight games. So, I think it was good for the team to have a chance to get back and just regroup a little bit, recharge, and then also with the younger guys that haven't played, got to work with them a little bit more extensively and get them working in the system offensively, defensively, and on special teams. So hopefully we made some progress. And one thing I told those guys is there's certainly going to be some guys in those groups that will be at some point playing in the next 3 weeks or the last 4 weeks of the season. So, moving forward is always an important thing. So I think that was good. And then, a special benefit was we got to get out Friday and do some recruiting. It's always fun to go to, games on Friday nights. It's something that you really miss. High school football on Friday nights is really special. So good to have that opportunity, certainly. Looking ahead now at the Wisconsin game, 4 captains remain the same. We've got Herkett and Entringer on the defensive side, and then Gronowski and Logan Jones offensively. So those guys stay the same. Injury-wise, don't see Jazz coming back. I don't think that's going to be a possibility. And then T.J. Washington probably won't make it either. So stays the same. Jaden came out of the game last time we played, and I don't see him being back either. So I'm pretty sure those guys will all be out. Positive side, looks like Vanderzee's going to have a chance to get back if he can make it through the week. And the same thing with Xavier Williams. Looks like he's pretty healthy after 2 days. So we'll see what that looks like as we go along. And then regarding Mark, so far so good. It's been, encouraging, certainly. He's gotten some good work in. A week ago, wasn't so optimistic, but we'll just take it as it goes this week. And, right now we're working all 3 of the guys. But again, he worked well today, so we'll see how it all goes along as we move along here. Talking about Wisconsin, typically, and really no different, like a lot of last 20-plus years, they're a big physical team, strong team, and, just expect it to be another tough Big Ten road game. And the fact that they've moved it to a night game makes it even more of a challenge, but it seems to be the way it is in college football right now. So, we expect a real tough contest. Offensively, that's probably the biggest difference. Coach Fickle's been there a couple of years now. Defensively, look pretty much like they did, except different personnel. I'll get to that in a second. But offensively, they've got a new system, and then they've been dealing with the quarterback rotation as well. Injuries have factored into their play. So, looked to me like again, just TV scouting and watching from afar. Looked like Saturday they kind of settled in and found a little bit of a home base there, and it looked typical to Wisconsin. Ran the ball really well. Big, strong guys up front. Got their line. They've had some injuries there, too, and some road guys rotating. Looked like they settled in pretty well there and, did a nice job, and the quarterback did a good job. So, you never know what to expect, but I would imagine that's probably the lean, at least as they move forward. And then defensively, I think the biggest change is just their personnel. A lot of new faces. A couple guys graduated. They went out and really loaded up with some new, more mature guys on the defensive front. So if you look at their front 7 right now, they're a bigger, stronger group and playing really well, playing really aggressively. So, we'll have our work cut out there for us for sure. Again, it's never been easy going up to Madison day or night, and certainly playing a night game. It's going to be a big challenge for us. I think the last time was like 2007, somewhere back there. So, expect it to be tough. Last time we were there, it was a late afternoon game. But one thing that's consistent, their crowds are, it's a tough place to play. And, you're playing a good football team. So that's what we're looking at there. Kid captain real quick is Lily Sebastian. She's a young lady from Cedar Rapids. She and her twin sister were both born prematurely, 31 and a half weeks. And Lily was 2 ounces, or excuse me, 2 pounds and 4 ounces at birth. Had some developmental challenges and had surgery on first day of her life, and basically surgeries pretty periodically through age 5. So some real challenges early. Her sister spent a month in the NICU, and Lily spent 299 days there. So, tough start, but she's really doing great. Seventh grader, a 12-year-old who's a 7th grader up in Cedar Rapids, and it sounds like she's got a real good spirit. So we'll be thinking about her on Saturday, and glad to be representing her. And again, just it's a tough challenge for us going on the road, playing a night game. Tough environment against a good football team that, typically when our 2 teams match up, it's a hotly contested game. So a lot on the line, certainly, and, we'll try to finish up this week and have a good week of preparation. I'll throw it out.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, can you kind of describe what the last week or so has been for Mark in terms of his rehab, his recovery, and was he a full go today, or is he still just kind of slowly working back from the injury?
He just basically practiced. We didn't run any quarterback runs with him or anything like that, but he just had a normal day. I don't know if his car's out there right now, but I see it out there a lot. At least I have the last 9 days, and we're not making him pay taxes or anything like that. But he's in the building an awful lot. And he's just wearing out the training staff. But testing came back positive. That's the most important thing. Got that Monday, I guess it would have been. So that was the start, and then basically it's just what he can do and how fast he can progress. And I know he's doing every bit he can from that standpoint, and the medical staff's doing a great job working with him, and pleasantly surprised, quite frankly. So, I'm not saying I wasn't going to be optimistic, but, you're always concerned when a guy has an injury.
Hey, Kirk. Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Wanted to ask you about kind of the change at the backup position, at least with the either-or kind of for Hank and Hecklinski. What have you seen from Hecklinski? What kind of initiated that change in kind of the status there?
Yeah, basically what I was saying, as you can imagine, last week, Mark didn't do anything with football. So he didn't get any snaps. We took all the reps that we did have and divided with those 2 guys. So we're going to let those guys compete. And, really it's a whole, with all 3 of them right now, it's who looks best by Friday. That's who will start the game. So, it's a pretty open competition. Hank's done a really nice job, and Jeremy's been impressive. In season, it's tough to, give 3 guys reps, which is it's hard to do. But with the bye week, it gave us a chance for, all guys to compete. And, I think both guys look good. So they're different quarterbacks. They have different strengths. And, you just never know. But, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Can you just, in the reps that Hank and Jeremy were able to get during the bye week, I guess just kind of provide some insight into what you saw from each of them?
Thought they both did well. And, Hank's got the inside track, if you will, in that he's been here longer, went through the entire spring ball, so he got a real good jump systematically. But Jeremy's done a good job with it, and obviously Mark's done a good job too. So it's a healthy room, pardon the pun, but going back to, the last couple of years, it's just a better situation right now where I think guys have a good grip of what we're doing, and I think all 3 of them are capable of, doing some good things with our team. And, obviously we'd like to have your starter, and Mark is clearly the starter right now, but, we'll see how they all do. But they're all making good progress.
Hey, Kirk. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Insider. Regarding Reese, has he been a full go this week? Is it just kind of wait and make sure he's healthy by the end of the week? What does that look like, and how important is it to get him back after missing those first 5 weeks?
Yeah, I'm not expecting him to light the world on fire this week if he does play. Basically, it's been a slow gradual process, and the type of injury he had just required a flat-out rest. I mean, he was in a walking boot for I don't know how long, it seemed like forever. So, that is what it is, and you gotta be patient there. Last week he was able to do running on ground and worked with the strength staff, that type of thing. Nothing football-wise really, and then this week he started to work back a little bit. So his volume of work right now, he's missed a lot of time, so he couldn't go out there and play meaningful snaps. But at least if we can start to work him in now, I look fine today. But now he's got to start building a base and getting back to where. Good news is he was in great shape when he got pulled out. So at least, it's not like you're starting from ground zero necessarily, but nonetheless, we just got to be smart with them and think big picture.
Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register.
Excuse me.
Real quick before I ask, so Mark is medically cleared? Was that fair to say? Medically cleared to play?
Yeah, pretty much was last week. It's, I guess the best way I can state it is just it's the testing was positive, so now it's a matter of what can he do effectively and efficiently and confidently. That's the other component.
That's kind of what I want to ask about. Is
Yeah.
it more of a needs to strengthen around the knee type thing and rehab, or is it more of just pain tolerance, or how would you describe what?
And,
what you're
anytime
looking
I
for
talk
here?
about medical stuff, I always qualify that I'm not a doctor. Look at my resume or transcript, I guess. I stayed the hell away from chemistry, physics, all those things. But I've sat in medical meetings for a long time right now, and it's again just poor man's version. It was like a sprain, I guess, more than anything else. And it was a stable joint, which is first and foremost, and then the testing all kind of has to confirm things. But so it's a matter of what he can do effectively, and I think I just threw in that word confidence. I think that's going to be the number one conversation at the end of the week is, do you feel confident that you can go out there and play well and play effectively and not be thinking about it, not trying to protect yourself, that type of deal, because that doesn't do anybody any good. And so, I think that's what the week's for right now. Let's work through it and see what it looks like. Looks like he's fine today, but, who knows, tomorrow he may be sore, he may be swollen, we don't know. So we'll just take it a day at a time and see what it looks like. And he's got to feel good, and then obviously there's got to be medical clearance. But, none of this would have happened without the medical clearance. Yep.
Mitch Vick, KGN, just wondering if you could speak to Jaden Montgomery now at the top of the mic. Seth was saying, I think it was about a month ago, that he's put himself in a position where if it's Mike or Will, he's got flexibility and he's earned a lot of trust. Obviously, he's a legacy, too, if you could just speak to his role.
When we recruited him, we knew he wasn't tall. That would be not the first adjective I would use to describe him. But we've had a lot of players here that, fit that bill. I've got a son who played center here that was kind of in that category too. So historically, go back to Mark Sillinger. That's a lesson I learned when he played here for 3 years for us. Played really well in the 80s. So that's not his top attribute, but he just, he's a great student in high school. You watch his film, it was really impressive. Full speed player and full speed mentally. And that's who he's been since he's been here. He's been a really good special teams guy. He's been recognized as a leader by our players internally. And, we talked about Cohen going to Vegas, not even basically being a starter. And Jaden's on the leadership group, basically voted by his peers. So everything he's done has just been really exceptional. And to me, he's earned his way. I mean, that's why he was the second team guy and has done a good job there. I think he'll do a good job here this coming Saturday and however long he's in there. And just excited to see him get a chance to perform. He's worked really hard for it, and smart guy and a confident guy, and I know this, he'll lay it out there for us. So it's fun to see him climb the ladder like that.
Hi, Kirk. Scott Docterman with The Athletic. I've got two questions. They're kind of completely different, but one is the slow tempo that Wisconsin's offense plays is probably unique to what I've seen anyway, which is they're 112th in plays, but then they're fifth in time of possession, so it's like 32 seconds per play.
Okay.
How do you simulate that? And then my other question is, when you're at this point in the season, do you mention the fact that your goals are still out there to the team, or do you try to keep it so narrow that you don't mention what the big picture is?
Yeah, we and this it's fortunate because we had 2 weeks now, but typically right after a game, we'll talk big picture, briefly, and then we get back to where we're at here and what are we trying to do. So it's always touched on, like after any game, where we're at. This is what this means, and these guys are in college; they can figure all that stuff out on their own. But we'd like to touch on it a little bit, and then to me, I think the sooner everybody realizes this is all week-to-week stuff, what we do, and having a chance to watch a couple games on Saturday, obviously, is really apparent. Like every week's a new adventure, and if you're not careful, it could be an adventure too. So you really got to focus on what you're doing. And then, it's kind of smiling a little bit about what you talked about, the pace and time possession. It's almost like back in the 80s, if you played BYU, they were an outlier. And I remember Bill Brazier always lamented he didn't care where we went to a bowl game as long as we didn't play BYU. That was his goal. And then ironically, they played, right, and it was 10-10. So I don't know what he was so worried about, but he spent 11 years, 12 years worrying about that when I was here. My 9 years, it was always, I hope we don't play BYU. So, yeah, it's kind of like it's funny how things change and evolve around, over time. Yeah, how we simulate it, just slow things down, which is a switch. Yeah, it is a switch. Usually we're, rush.
Hey, Kirk. Jonah Krell with WQAD. Talking to some of the players, they mentioned the importance of not being lackadaisical for the game. How is that heightened coming off a bye when you haven't played in a while?
Yeah, I think, trying to think of how to say this the best way. I talk to our guys a lot about what they hear and what at least I think they're hearing on the outside. And again, Saturday's a good day for, not that I can't just zero in on a game. I have a hard time doing it unless I got somebody like, I know that's involved in it personally, that type of deal. But one thing I have noticed about broadcasts and what have you, and this is I don't mean to say this in an offensive way, but there's so much time to fill. I can't imagine being like an analyst or a play-by-play guy, because you got to fill that airtime, and there's just a lot of verbiage and talk, and then all you got to do is look at, open my iPad and go to ESPN. There's always interesting stories to talk about, but the bottom line is nobody can predict what's going to happen. That's I guess the thing we try to talk to our players about, and plenty of examples Saturday that if you're not prepared, you could end up. All the experts might think this is going to happen, and boom, it's just the opposite. And in my mind, it's usually because people aren't mentally prepared for it. And one thing, if anything, people should learn, it's like in conference football. And I'm going back 40-some years, coming here from Pitt, where Pitt was an independent in those days, and one of the top teams in the country, and just kind of poo-pooed this conference stuff. But when you get in conference football, it's a dogfight each and every week. And I think, especially today with the way the conferences are, boy, there's so much parity and so much. Maybe parity is not the right word, but if you're not prepared, you could really have some bad things happen to you. So, it's not like, we got to be that way every week anyway. It's just kind of, it's rare when we're not involved in close games. So we just have to have the right mindset. And it all goes back to how you prepare. It really, if you're not preparing well, you open the door for bad things to happen on Saturdays.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. There's already been a couple, or at least a few circumstances where, guys that weren't starters to begin the season are now in just due to injuries. How do you make sure that guys that maybe aren't number one on the depth chart, are mentally ready to go in at any time, like Hank was, in the Indiana game?
And that's really their jobs, and that's something we talked to them about. Used to refer to it as like a second team cocoon. It's a safe place. You can get, if you're not careful, you can get in a rut of just going out and practicing well enough not to have, draw attention to yourself, but maybe not well enough to prepare so you are prepared if you do end up on the field on Saturday. And talk to our guys about that a lot. Always go back, cherry pick Sam Brownlee back in 2004, sitting in the back of the room in August, having no idea what was about to unfold and about to happen. None of us did. And all of a sudden we lost 4 running backs, and guess what, Sam, you're in there. But the one thing about him, he was not as gifted maybe physically as the other guys that were in front of him on the pecking order, but the guy never blew a protection, never turned the ball over. He did the things that gave us a chance to have a successful season. And outside of making A.J. Hawk miss on that one run out there, he ran like a 20-yard draw. That was his claim to fame as a guy with the ball in his hands. Otherwise, it was closer to my high school career, like 1.6 yards per carry. But he never blew a protection, never turned it over. And, that gave us a chance to have a championship year that year. So easy example to cherry pick, but it's because he got ready. He was ready to go when he did get called upon. And again, that was a real long shot because we had so many guys injured that year at his position. But, you just use examples like that to your players that this could be you at any time. You just never know. So that's why you got to be preparing like you might be in there in the game, because there's a difference if chances are I won't be in there. So I can just do enough, but you're not really getting better. And it all gets back to every player should be trying to get better every time they're out there in the field. You got to have that mentality.
Hey, Kirk. Jackson Miller, Daily Island. What have you seen from Sam Phillips this year, kind of coming in as a transfer in the spring and now kind of emerging as a top receiver?
Yeah, Sam's just been great to work with. Since the time he showed up for his visit back, I guess that would have been, I think in January, right? But anyway, he's been great. He's just, everything about him is positive. He's a really mature guy, does a great job in the classroom. That's not an issue. And he's really just blended and melded with our team real at ease, just like it's seamless. And he's a great guy out there on the field. He's got a real good energy and really good spirit, practice as well, and good return guy as well. So he's been a real positive addition.
Madison Hertzig, the Gazette. Kind of following up a little bit on some guys that are getting reps with injuries and things like that. I wanted to ask about Nathan. Obviously, you mentioned earlier this season you weren't planning to have a true freshman get as many reps as he did in the running back room especially, but how have you seen him step up and be able to take on the workload that he's kind of been presented with this season?
Yeah, it really goes back to January when he showed up. He just it's always interesting. Everybody comes in, just how they enter in the program, and that used to be a little bit more unique coming in January. Now it seems to be more of a trend. We don't mandate it, but a lot of our guys seem to do it, and everything he's done has been really seamless. His GPA was way up there. That was impressive. But, it kind of goes back to when he's a late recruit for us. He and his dad came up for a game probably in October, maybe early November, something like that. And then his mom came with the dad and Nathan for the official visit in December. Just a really impressive family. And, that part was great. And then once he got on the field, it became apparent to us he's a little better maybe than we gave him credit for, and but he just seems to just handle everything just pretty much in stride. It doesn't really overwhelm him, so it's been really good. And then you want to get him in the game a little bit, but you're careful, especially with new players, and just everything he's done every step along the way so far has been good. So we'll try to be smart about how we use him, but we didn't have this plan coming into it, but just because of the injuries, it's created opportunity. He's been able to, like we're talking about, you just never know if you're fourth, fifth team and all of a sudden you're in there, playing some, and he's done a great job with it. So hopefully we won't, overuse him where he hits the wall. We don't want him to have that happen, but he's doing a really nice job.
Hi, Kirk. Jack Lito with KCRG. Just to clarify, the medical team says Mark is cleared, but the final decision as to whether or not he starts will be made by him and you on Friday or Saturday?
Yeah, just, for clarification, too, nothing happens if the medical team says no. It all starts there, and then they're the ones who give us the, license to let him do this, let him do that, and then at some point it's clear to go. But all that being said, any position, if a player, once he's cleared and he's out there working, you as a coach evaluate him, and if he can't function, a sprained ankle is probably a better example. Some positions you can get by with it a little bit better than you can others. It's tough to be a running back with a sprained ankle. But as you watch a guy practice and compete a little bit, if he can't, be safe, or more importantly, perform at a level, it's going to be what you're looking for or what he's looking for, then you're really hitting your head on the wall, and that's not smart. So we may hold a guy back a little bit. And part of that's confidence, yeah. The player's got to have confidence in his ability to play and perform. So, ultimately, that'll be part of the conversation. How do you feel? How are you feeling about things? Because you don't want him going out there looking over his shoulder. That's not a good thing.
With that in mind, if you're comfortable sharing, what was the conversation with you and Mark like on the sidelines when he was warming up, kind of running, and you ultimately decided Hank was going to go in?
Yeah, but he was very honest. He just said, I can't decelerate. That's an issue, and you can't play if you can't. It's one thing to be able to run, but if you can't stop, be kind of like when I tried to ski. That would have been 40-some years ago. Yeah, I was okay on the going down part. I was bad on the stop part. So, it wouldn't have been smart to put him in the game. It just wouldn't have been fair to anybody.
Brad Schultz, Daily Iowan. Coach, you now have had 5 night games that have been announced this year. So I'm just curious your thoughts on playing so many primetime games.
Yeah, so it kind of fits in the category of whenever we added the first 2 West Coast teams, that was pretty much okay, throw it all out the window. Everything's geography, tradition, that's out the window. And There was a time, I'll date myself, when 1 o'clock was a normal starting time. Then when I got back here 20-some years ago, it was 11 o'clock. And now there is no normal. Like, maybe at night it is normal, but I think the obvious assumption is that, TV is going to kind of tell us what to do, when to do it. And it's one thing I've told our guys, we know when our 11 games are, 12 games are. I'm dating myself. We all know when the 12 games are. Well, nobody knows what time they're going to be, so you just got to stay flexible. And it seems like this is the new trend. This is one for the books, 5 out of 7, right? Pretty amazing.
Hey, Coach. Joey Dania from KWQC. Just wanted to ask you, how much, if at all, if Mark is not available, would you anticipate changing the offensive scheme to put your team in position to be successful on Saturday?
Yeah, we'll try to lean towards whatever works best for the quarterback in there. So Hank and Jeremy are a little bit different in terms of the way they operate and all that type of thing. But it's going to look, in general, just, it's not going to look a lot different with any of the three of the guys that we have right now. And but yeah, I think that's what you do with any quarterback. You try to lean towards what they do effectively and do best. And we did the same thing last year, with Caden Sully. So you just kind of like Taylor make it a little bit towards what he does best at that particular player, and then you go from there. So, but it's not a wholesale different offense by any stretch.
Last 2 questions.
Yep.
Chad, start with Chad.
Chad Leistiko again. So I know coaches always like to deal with known things. So are you preparing this week as if Mark is your starter, or preparing as if he is not your starter?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good question, because we just got done planning for the last couple of days. I guess it started last week. But, yeah, we put the game plan up there, and just kind of ties in with the last question. Depending on who's in the game, we'll dictate, where you lean a little bit. But the offense looks like the offense pretty much. And, you just kind of go in the direction with whatever that particular player's skill set may be, and try to emphasize that if that player's in the game. And, I mean, if Mark starts a game, it's like last week. There's no guarantee he'll finish, or just any player. So you have to have that flexibility. But, yeah, we're not banking on anything. We couldn't. We've had nothing but unknowns. Today, I would say it was the most positive step that we've had in terms of, like, okay, yeah, maybe this is realistic. But we still got a lot of, water to get over here before we get there. So we'll see what it looks like Friday and kind of go from there.
Yeah, Scott Docterman with The Athletic. I wanted to ask about last year when you played them and kind of ran all over them, that they really they changed their personnel for sure up front. I think they added 4 to 5 new bodies, all of them in the 300-pound range, versus I think they had 1 last year at that spot. Have they done anything schematically to enable themselves to stop the run? Because I think they're allowing only 75 yards a game now, which is their one area they've been pretty good at this year.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier. Me personally, I don't think philosophically they're a lot different. I think the personnel is different. And as I said, it's the front 7, not just what you said is exactly right. They're playing a lot of guys up front and the front down, the 4 down guys. I mean, sometimes 3 deep. They're rolling them through there, so they keep their guys fresh that way. They are better. One of the inside guys came from LSU. They got a guy from Tulane. I mean, you go right down the list, they got guys from a lot of different places that have joined the group, and they're all, for the most part, bigger than what they had. The guy from Louisville is a really good player, number 22. So a lot of guys are really active that way. I think they're doing a good job keeping them fresh. And I would include my personal opinion. The 2 linebackers, I think, are reflective of what you're talking about too. They're downhill physical linebackers, and I'm not saying the 2 guys last year weren't, but they were a little different style. So I think the stats that you referred to, the run stats, have been really impressive, and there's a reason for it. They've not so much philosophically in terms of scheme, but more so in terms of personnel, I think, have really bolstered themselves a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be tough to run the football against them. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.